Hello, Fat Guy Flies RC here. Here from the bench, we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about the E-flite Valiant, using a servo tester, how to correctly identify the different parts of the plane, the different parts of the wing, because when they come out of the box, you're going to have this cluster of wires that came from the same area, and you're not going to have any idea which one is the flap, which one is the aileron, which goes to where, this, that, and the other. So I'm going to show you a real simple way to discover that and figure out what you're doing. Hold on just a second, I'll make sure I have not lost one of my screws, because I'm sure I have a screw loose, but not the right screw. Alright, let me pause for just a second. Well, we'll keep going. Keep making up my mind here what I'm doing. First things first, Horizon Hobby is going to give you a couple these are called Y leads. In other words, two aileron wires are going to hook to this and going to turn the signal into one wire. So you got two signals coming in, they're going to go into one, and then this one is going to plug into your receiver. Now, same thing for the ailerons. That way, two ports on your receiver is going to control basically four different servos. The one port for your ailerons is going to control your ailerons via a Y harness. One port on your receiver is going to control two flaps. Two flaps controlled with one port via the Y harness on your wing. And that's going to signals coming from the receiver. Hope that's as clear as mud. So, the way to identify this is you get yourself a servo tester. Now I've got this looks rinky-dink, but actually this is a $30 servo tester, and I've masking taped just a real simple little ESC, throwaway ESC, it's a cheap little one. I've hooked the back of it. That way I can easily take a LiPo battery, plug it in. I now have power. Now, on a servo tester, you can always tell where the center spot is, because you'll feel a little click, or there'll be an indicator point, or there'll be something that shows you that's the mid-range. One way, the other way, but you'll feel it. Now, you're saying, well, Fat Guy, look at all them wires. How do I know which is which? Alright, well, let's take this wire here. We're going to just start figuring it out. Process of elimination. Your light wire. White wire here, white wire. The lighter colored wire is always going to go light to light. Either white to yellow, white to whatever the lightest color is, they're going to join up, and the darkest color, in this case black with brown. But those are how it's going to line up. Remember, light to light, dark to dark, and look at that. I've identified that that's the flap. Okay? Now, okay, so that's the flap. And in the middle position, it would appear that's not completely lined up correctly. Wonder why that is. Let's take this other wire that's come from the same thing. Must be the aileron down here. Remember, light to light. You can see it. And look right here. Hope you can see it. Here's your aileron. There, see, that's controlling. So, when I go back to the center position, you can see right there, that's all nice and lined up with the frame. It's all level. So that way I know that when I plug this in the receiver and I start flying it, that I know that when I put the aileron back in the center or neutral position, that it's trimmed right. It's trimmed right in the middle. Something's going on with this flap. It is not trimmed right. Okay, so we'll go back to the other one that's coming out of that hole and grab it, and we know it's the flap. We know that, wait, something's not right with the flap. So light to light, white to white, dark to dark. So something's not right there. Now, here's a little secret. On a flap, this is actually my takeoff flaps. that's the center position in a flap, because in all actuality, with a flap, your neutral position or your even with a wing position is going to be your furthest out. In other words, it's going to be flat. That's going to be the first position. In other words, all the way down on your servo tester. And the second position will be neutral, which would be your takeoff. And then all the way at the other end of the servo tester, the other direction, would be my landing flaps. So to know that my flap, and only for the flaps, only applies to flap, is trimmed and centered correctly, I'd go all the way on the servo detector, either one way or the other. I hope you're able to follow that. Because it starts at one end of the spectrum. One end, like I say, one end here, all the way around. All the way around it stops on this particular one. That's your first position or zero position on the transmitter. And then your first position or neutral on this, or the center position, will be your takeoff flaps, and then all the way around to the other extreme will be your landing position. That's how you do flaps. Okay, that's how you set up using a servo tester. And this way I know these are all linear with each other. Okay, to go back and go over that again, the flat, or the aileron, sorry, remember light to light, when I plug this in, look, because I'm already all the way over, this is the neutral. This way, all the way around would be one way for the flat, all the way back around would be the other way, obviously for the aileron. But the neutral position would be what I'd want for a aileron. Now, let's say you plug those puppies in, okay? And this you have at neutral. However, you find that your aileron or your flap, the flap being in the zero position and the aileron being in the neutral position, you find that after you unplug it, that it's still a little further up or a little further down. Well, that would be when you want to undo the control horn, or the control arm, that's the control horn, with the linkage, and you usually have like a little piece of tubing or what have you, or maybe a zip tie here to for your clevis here. And what you would do, you would unattach it there, and then you would, this is on a screw, so if you rotate it, if you were to take the clevis and turn it left, in other words out, left to loosen, it would come forward. In other words, pushing your aileron this way. So how far you'd want to go. And if it's too far that way, then you're going to want to tighten your clevis. In other words, go to the right and then attach it, and it's going to pull the aileron in a little bit. So you would just play with that back and forth until whenever you hook it up, that it sits neutral. That it naturally sits neutral. Reattach it, put it back, put your piece of whatever you use to attach the, to tighten down the control arm there. You would come in, let's watch me grab the wrong one. Remember, light to light. That's the flap. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay? Now you know, by the way, you have mechanically adjusted it to neutral. So therefore, and look at that. In the neutral position, it is flat. So I now know, by way of the servo tester and mechanically, that this is in the neutral position. Do this first because this tells the servo to be in its neutral position. Test it, and then however far away it is from neutral, if it's right on neutral, you're done. However, if it's not neutral, if it's a little bit up or a little bit down, then you need to unhook it and mechanically turn it in or out to adjust it to where it's neutral. That is how, when you're setting up a plane, that is how you neutral your control surfaces. Remember, the flaps are different. They're going to go start at the zero position, and then the neutral position is your takeoff, and then the far extreme is your landing. Now, let's go back to identifying these bad boys. I already know this is an aileron, so I'm going to take one part of my Y harness. Same principle here. Light to light, dark down below, light, dark, dark. Now I'm going to come over here to this side of the wing, and I'm going to identify which one is my flap. Now I've already neutraled everything on this side, and we're done here. White to white. Hey, got the aileron right off the bat. Okay, it's already centered. I know that this is the aileron. I'm going to take the other half of my Y lead, light to light, dark to dark. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. Light's on top and dark's on bottom. Make sure that they kind of smash in really good. Some people take a little piece of glue. Some of you can feel them click in. It doesn't. This fits pretty tight. It's pressure fits pretty tight. If you still feel, take a piece of Scotch tape and just tape it around everywhere you see black. Tape it up with Scotch tape. Now let's see some magic happen here. Hopefully on the camera, I'll set this back just a touch. I am now, remember I told you about a Y lead? And you can take two servos and control them with one lead from the receiver. Watch the ailerons. Light to light, dark to dark. And if you hook it up wrong, it just won't work. Alright, hope you can see us on camera. But look at that. Both my ailerons are working. Both of them are working. So I now have this Y lead hooked to the ailerons. Now, look at where they come out of the top of the Valiant's wing. They come out pretty much even. So what I would do is I have either take a little piece of tape and put a little A on there and wrap it around the top and set that down. So we now know that these back ones are obviously the flaps. Now, what you have in here, you're going to say, wait a minute, if you hook that up, they're going to work opposite each other. No, one of these servos is reversed. Okay? In other words, it receives a reverse signal because otherwise they would behave like the ailerons and they would go up and down opposite direction of each other. But we don't want that with flaps. We already know by process of elimination this is now the flaps. So when I apply power, and we've already got them neutral, okay, I'm going to go in here, light to light, dark to dark, and look what I've got. There's landing, takeoff, neutral. Because you see, if one of these servos, I don't know which, if one of them was not reversed, then they would be operating like ailerons. So the easiest way to identify your flaps and your aileron whenever nothing's labeled, which is a bad on Horizon, Hobby, and E-Flight, they should label these. They should have already had the Y lead installed, and they should have this labeled. Now, you're going to plug these back in. But oh, by the way, folks, if you've already put this plane together, you're going to know that this little bit of wire and this little bit of wire, that's when you're trying to fiddle around and get your big old meat hooks in there like I've got. You're trying to plug these suckers in, and you've only got this little bitty Y lead. And you're thinking, man, I wish this was longer, folks. If you get in this hobby, you're going to get more than one plane. You're going to put these things together. It's going to be aggravating. Go to Amazon. Buy some servo extensions. Buy these larger, heavy-duty Y leads. Because see, looky there. I've got this much room to work with. But if I was to plug this in, now I've got this much room to work with. I can literally lay the wing down and then at my leisure and with plenty of room, plug it in without having to fiddle with the wing right there. Buy your... They're super cheap. You buy them like in packs of 20 on Amazon. They work out to, I don't know, 20 cents each. You buy 10 of them. You can spend $10 and buy you enough Y leads and servo extensions to last you a lifetime. So get off the wall and save yourself some aggravation. If anything else, at least your wife's not going to hear you cussing in the back room over a stupid plane because you can't get your hands in there. A little bit of prevention goes a long way. Now, folks, when I took these screws out, I did not pay attention, and one of my screws has gone bouncing somewhere. Not only do I have a screw loose, I've got screws lost. So let's see if I can't find it. Well, anyways, 4 bolts hold it in as soon as I find the one missing bolt, which is probably in my tray. Oh, by the way, in your shop, get yourself a magnetic tray. Because if you're like me, and you've already got screws, looky there. And there it is. I put it in there. Magnetic trays, a must. Any mechanic says, I get them. Well, I hope that explained servos and a servo tester. That's the whole point of a servo tester, is to put your servo in neutral from the get-go. Just hook up. Now, if you don't have a little extra ESC to hook up to it, there's always a port or something on all servos start where you can apply power to it, and then it's going to be a normal lead, like your lead that comes out of your servo, or comes out of a Y harness, and you just plug your servo into it, and you can put it in the neutral position. They all have a very distinct neutral position on the servo tester, and then you can make sure your servo is in neutral before you even install it in the plane, or if it's already installed in the plane, you can ensure that it's in neutral before you even start putting the plane together. Most E-flite and Hobby Zone and Park Zone planes, a lot of your Durafly, a lot of your big name brands, they're in flight test stuff. They're very particular. They make sure their servos are in the neutral position to begin with. But why test it? I mean, why chance it? Take 5 seconds, plug it in, make sure it's neutral. It'll save you a lot of headache. So, my lands, go ahead and do it. I mean, let's see. Let's find that missing hole there now. Okay. There's 1, 2, 3. Okay, right there is where it goes. All right, folks. Well, that's that. I'm going to put this plane back together off camera, and I hope this explained servo testing to you using a servo tester. That's the point. You can also test an ESC and a motor with it, but I'll do that on a different video because there's more use to this than just centering servos. Thank you for watching. I hope this was as clear as mud for you. And don't forget to like and subscribe, folks. Thank you so much. Hug your family. Oh, yes, and like and subscribe. It helps me out. Makes a fat guy smile.